we're going to go after that. Yeah, she's just a kid having fun. But, and I know you guys are better than that. The thing was I go, okay, well, maybe it is still some sort of coded information, but it's not. She writes a ton of this stuff. It is weird she wrote a lot of it close together, but I mean, I was grasping at straws at that point. I think that the pancreas denial, she had also read something like I had, just a short phrase, and somehow built a story around it, which I guess is kind of the same thing I do, but it was just such a weird aside. So I was back really to square one. I think if from a conspiracy standpoint, the idea works, that pancreas denial is the idea that the pancreas is it's a major chakra that you can live without. So you can't live without your brain chakra, or you can't live with, or head chakra, or whatever it is. You can't live without the heart chakra, but you can live without the chakra there. And so if I was a wizard and I knew that, oh my god, I can't believe, if I was a wizard and I knew that the pancreas was important and I knew people could live without it, I would poison the food supply. It makes sense. I don't believe that that's happening. I don't believe that wizards are actually doing that, but from a conspiracy standpoint, I can see that. I can see people believing that. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and get on to the next story. So, the next story I found when I was looking up murderous ghosts. And I had talked about that before. I was trying to find stories about people who had been murdered by ghosts or supernatural creatures in general. And I found one of the most compelling articles I've read in a long time. And I remember when I finished it, I thought, I'm so glad I'm doing this podcast. Because just a month ago, if I had found this article, I would have maybe read the first couple of paragraphs and then skipped it. Because my time was so important even though I did nothing with it. But now that I'm kind of forced, I guess compelled is a better thing, to read these articles and find stories, I read it and I'm like, this was a fascinating article. It covered a lot of amazing things. So what happened? The narrative hook is at the very beginning of this article, and this is all true, this is all historical, is that a man killed a ghost. He's on trial for killing a ghost. But it wasn't a ghost. So this guy shot like a laborer who was wearing all white walking down the street. And a man jumped out of the alleyway and shot the laborer, killed him. Because he shot him because he was a ghost. So you're thinking, well, why would a guy jump out and the article gets you hooked right from there. You're like, why would a guy jump out and shoot at a ghost? So what happened was, back in the 19th century in Britain, they had a major problem with ghosts. What it was, so back then, if you were poor, they really wouldn't put you in a coffin. They'd bury you. But you were poor, they would wrap you up in the bed sheet that you died in if you died in bed, or they would just grab a bed sheet if you're dead somewhere else. They'd tie the feet and the head, and they'd throw you into the ground and bury you. So most bodies were covered in white sheets. Now that is why ghosts traditionally are just a white sheet. I had never known that. I had wondered that before. Why do ghosts appear in traditional media as just being a white sheet walking around? So right away, I'm like, this article's fascinating. But the problem they had in the 19th century was people dressing up as ghosts and jumping out at people it started off as a practical joke. Then people started putting a white sheet on and mugging other people. Give me your wallet, give me your pences or whatever, give me your shillings. And it would scare people so badly because they actually thought these were zombies. They thought these were ghosts. They thought this was the dead popping up out of nowhere and attacking people. And then people started wearing the sheets and raping women. Now, I'm sure halfway through the rape they realized it wasn't a ghost, but that's not the point. The point is the initial attack would shock you because you honestly thought it was a ghost attacking. And what made it worse was that all around Britain, people would say, there's a ghost in the area. There's a ghost, because you would see, first, like I said, it was a practical joke. People would stand in the graveyard in a white sheet and freak people out. And so when you were walking down a dark alley and a guy jumped out in a white sheet, your first inclination is going to be, that's the living dead. Because you've already heard all the stories about that. And it got to the point where so many women were being harassed by ghosts who people thought were vigilante teams. And they would walk through the cities looking for ghosts. So there was that clown scare in America not too long ago. This would be the equivalent of that. But when we see people in clown outfits, we're like, oh, they're just ghosts. I mean, they're just people dressed up as clowns. These people honestly thought these guys were ghosts. So this one guy, he wore all white because he was a laborer. That was the clothes that he wore. And other people in town were saying, hey, you shouldn't be out at night. You kind of look like a ghost. And he's like, I don't care. What are they going to do to me? I'm not a ghost. I'll beat him over the head with my billy club or whatever I have, a hammer. But one day he was walking on the street and I believe it was at his sister's house. And she's like, please don't go out, or at least change your clothes before you go home because you look like a ghost. And he's like, whatever. He's walking on the street. Another guy who was part of one of these vigilante groups looking for ghosts saw a man in all white, thought it was a ghost, pulled the trigger, and immediately realized that he was wrong. Shot a man and killed him. He was arrested, charged, and found guilty for killing a ghost, for killing this man. Within 45 minutes, he's convicted of manslaughter. And this is how crazy things were back then with the trial system. He gets tried for manslaughter. The 3 judges say, no, that's not good enough. You can't split it down the middle. He's either guilty of murder or he's totally innocent. And you have to figure it out. And then the jury goes, well, I guess he's guilty to murder. Then he was sentenced to hang next Monday. None of this 10, 20-year thing. He was sentenced to hang next Monday. Now, luckily, the king got involved and said, you know what? No, we're not going to we're going to delay his execution. And then eventually they said, just parole him. Like, it was a tragic mistake. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. And that kind of quelled down the fake ghost scare of that time because nobody wanted to get shot. And it was the same thing. You may have heard the legend of Spring Heel Jack, who apparently was a supernatural creature who leapt around London and was harassing women. Well, he was sexually assaulting women is what he was doing. And so people used the paranormal to cover for their activities. Dress up as a ghost, pinch a woman's butt, dress up as a ghost, drag a woman into an alley. Your Spring Heel Jack, you're attacking women, was driving people insane. Plus, they have the superstitions that these things were real. So I know you'd like to think, well, we've advanced, we've changed, we've evolved, but people still use this ploy, and unfortunately, it still works. This just happened this year, by the way. So there was this young 15-year-old girl who was super petrified of the paranormal, of the occult, of the supernatural. She would never listen to the show. She would never watch X-Files, anything like that. She's just totally terrified of that. She starts hearing noises in her house late at night, and she's petrified. She can't figure out what it is. She thinks a ghost is coming after her. Then one night, a little note gets passed underneath her door. Gets up, she reads it. It has very clear instructions. If you want me to stop haunting you, have sex with Liam Clark. Now, I don't know if it actually said that, but that was the intent, because Liam Clark was a 35-year-old neighbor, or he wasn't a relative, but he knew the family. And she kept getting these notes saying, if you want me to stop haunting you, you have to have sex with Liam Clark. And she didn't want to have sex with him. She's 15, he's 35. But she wanted the haunting to stop so badly, so what does she do? She has sex with him. And of course, this happens in Britain too. Maybe it's a weird thing over there. Now, of course, eventually he's arrested because she tells somebody. This guy who pretended to be a ghost is now in prison for 26 years. He put this girl through psychological and physical torture, pretended to be a ghost, preyed on her worst fears, and really that is what they did back in the 17th, 18th, 19th century. It was the same gimmick. Prey on their fears, make them vulnerable, attack them. So maybe societies don't change. I don't know. It was just kind of a weird side note, a weird kind of, I don't want to say end cap to this story, because I'm sure it's going to continue on. Whenever someone can figure out someone's weakness like this, they're going to keep doing it. Well, I guess that's kind of ending on a sad note. But, not all of our stories are going to be super happy. Yeah, actually, this episode was quite depressing. But I thought they were really interesting. Well, the Bangtan Boys was pretty funny. That was worth it. That was the funny moment of the episode. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. Twitter is @JasonOCarpenter. You can hit me up there. We have a lot more episodes to come out. I have more than enough stories, but if you ever have a suggestion, hit me up on one of those channels. We're also still putting together our street team. We're getting everything set up for that, so if you're interested in that, you can always email me. Share the show. That really helps us grow. I love seeing people if you can't share it, just let me know that you love the show. That's always fun. It always makes my day. Dead Rabbit Radio is the paranormal conspiracy and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great day, guys. And Art Bell, once again, thank you. You were quite the entertainer/educator, and we're going to miss you. Have a great day, guys. Remember, I think I did a good job shooting down the other two conspiracy theories involving golf rumors. But people still believe them. People still believe that there's a glass camera that can defy the laws of physics, which is a non-starter. That is an impossible device. Might as well say it's a device, you press a button, you turn to jelly beans. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. The other one, Illuminati controls the world, controls Katy Perry, controls everything, but they don't know how to lock a door, and some reporter walked downstairs and saw Tiger Woods like banging a corpse, or whatever it was. It was some Illuminati ritual, and some reporter like wrote the article on Politico, and none of the editors were like, well, that's bizarre. Why aren't we calling the feds? Like, the conspiracy theory is stupid. So I think I poked enough holes in those, but to this day, people still believe that those stories exist. And I personally, you don't have to believe what I think golf rumors is. That's fine. I'm not saying you have to buy my scenario. But the other two scenarios, I think I do a really good job showing how ridiculous those are and how they are not possible. But a year later, people are still talking about Robert Glass, and they're talking about Obama, not Obama. They're talking, well, they think he's an Illuminati dude too, but Tiger Woods doing the ritual and all this. And that's one of the reasons why I'm always kind of saying, guys, let's get the word out about the show. Let's spread the word about the show. I want to bring fun and entertainment back to the world of conspiracies and paranormal. You're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. I want you to be listening to these stories and remembering what it was like to be 13 and the first time, like, finding a book of scary stories in the library. That's how I see this show. I want to bring back that childlike wonder to all of our, like, weirdo conspiracies and the spooky ghost stories and the crazy cults and stuff like that. That's one reason why I don't cover a lot of true crime unless it's totally exceptional. But anyways, I also want to introduce that logical side of it as well. It's great to read a story about aliens, and I've done this 100 times on the show, read about a story about aliens, read a story about ghosts, but then you say, here's probably why that's not true. And I think we have fun doing that as well. Because then when you find that story that you can't debunk, and I got one of those coming up, starting off season 8, and it's a good one. It's a creepy one. It makes it feel more real. It's funny, talking about this, I was just having a conversation with a listener named Nina today. She's a brand new listener to the show. She just discovered it today. And what attracted her to the show is the fact that we don't believe every single story we report on. It's not a matter of, you don't have to believe it. I don't believe Star Wars happened, but I can still enjoy The Mandalorian. But other people, there's whole sectors of the people who believe in conspiracies and paranormal that have lost that joy, that have lost that wonder, and really have lost that logical side. And that's how we get stuff like Flat Earth, or monkeys don't exist, or golf rumors, cameras that defy the laws of physics. They all work in the same realm, i.e. magical thinking. And I want to break that. I want to take it back. I want to own it, and I want to bring some rationality back to these awesome topics, these awesome stories. And so the episode is bittersweet to me because I think I was able to cut up those other two theories, but to this day people still believe them. The more we get the show out to people, the more we can start changing people's minds to go, I love conspiracy theories, I love ghosts, but let's look at this rationally. Tiger Woods did not go down to the basement and bang a corpse. The end. So, you don't have to believe my golf rumors conspiracy, but if you believe those other two ones, they just don't make sense. They don't pass the smell test, unless the smell is a decaying body in an Illuminati basement. So, 300 episodes later, I was not murdered by monkey people. I was not murdered by the people who I think are behind golf rumors, if it exists at all. But you can go ahead and listen to this episode and make up your own minds whether or not I made a good case for destroying those other two golf rumor theories, whether my golf rumor theory is just as ludicrous. You can definitely feel that way as well. But sit back, relax, kick your feet up, unless you're driving, keep them on the gas pedal, and listen to Dead Rabbit Radio Classics, Episode 4, Golf Rumors. Does YouTube have a monkey torture problem? And today we take a look at one of the most requested topics on this show, golf rumors, today on Dead Rabbit Radio.